Hey everyone, this is Mrs. Slauson. There's going to be two videos. One is for ICANN number 1, second attempt, and then I'm going to follow a video on the blue page, which is the capstone problems. And while that page is technically optional, the problems that you see in bold are going to be ones that would relate to the ICANN number 1. So when you're done with your second attempt, maybe go ahead and look at the video for the capstone stuff. All right, let's get started. So we are solving. So questions 1 through 4 are review, while questions 2 and 3 are new, because you're going to see very quickly that we cannot factor them. But let's go and start. Number 1, we're going to find the zeros, which just means I'm going to take my problem and make it equal to 0. And your first goal is to always factor. So when I first look at the problem, what I do notice is there is not a GCF. There's not something I can take out of all 3 of those. So what I'm going to do is, because there's 4 terms, I'm going to group them. So I'm just going to use the problem as it is, and I'm going to group the first 2 and the last 2. And then I'm going to take my first group and I'm going to look for a GCF, which is an x squared. And when I divide both of these terms by this x squared, what I'm left with is x minus 5. So when I go to GCF, my second set of parentheses, remember these do need to match. I call them the twins. And that means you'll be taking out a very specific GCF. So what number would be there that if I distribute it to x, I get negative 9x, or if I distribute it to the minus 5, makes a positive or plus 45. And that would be a negative 9. So I don't quite have the factors yet. Factors come in pairs. And so one of my factors is going to be the twins, which I'll only write once, x minus 5. And then my other set of factors is that GCF. Now, technically, we do have enough to solve. There's one type of x in each factor, but I do want you to get used to seeing that this x squared minus 9 is a difference of squares and could turn into this. So with that, these are my 3 factors, and this factor will give me an answer of 5. This factor will give me an answer of, let me fix that, negative 3. And this factor will give me a solution of 3. So 3 factors, 3 solutions, and according to that 3, I should also have a 3 up there. Real quick for graphing, this would have been some type of line that goes uphill with a y-intercept of 0.45, but that will be for another ICANN later. All right, number 2. So I'm going to do the same thing. We're going to solve. This time it's already set equal to 0, and I'm going to look for a GCF, which I do not see. So again, I'm going to try to group them. And maybe you can already see that this isn't going to work. My GCF here is going to be an x squared, and then I'm left with x minus 1. So when I GCF this, and I need an x minus 1 because these are going to match, these are going to be my twins, there is not something that can go here, right there, to make this work. So this isn't factorable. So technically what we should do at this point is do synthetic division and do our factors of 36. So here we go. 2, 3, 4, 6, 9, 12, 18, and 36. And the factors of 1, which are 1, and make this list of numbers that I should test, where these numbers become my numerator and then this becomes my denominator. So if I made that official list, I would want to use synthetic division to see if 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 12, 18, 36, the positive and the negative version, which of those numbers, if I put it here, would give me 0 at the end. We have tools that will help us get through that. So what I'm going to do is switch over to my graphing calculator. Let me move it in the picture, and I have already gone to the y equals button, and I've typed in my equation. Once you get that typed in, we're just going to hit zoom 6. It's going to graph, and I just want to find one nice simple solution. So when I look at this, I don't know if you guys can see this, but it looks like starting on the left, it looks like maybe negative 3 is a solution, negative 2, and then all the way here, what is that, maybe 6? So to double check this time, I'm just going to go to my table. So I'm going to hit second graph, and I just want to look to see what x values can give me 0 as a solution. And so again, there's -3, there's -2, and then there was the other one that I noticed, which was 6. So the one I'm going to use is going to be the -2. And now I don't need my graphing calculator anymore. I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to put my -2 here. I'm going to take the coefficients of 1, -1, -24, and -36, and when I'm done, I should get 0 at the bottom. So remember, we start by bringing the 1 down. -2 times 1 is -2. I'm going to add this column up. And now I'm going to take -3 times the -2 for 6, add this column up for -18, and then I'm going to take -8 times -2, get a +36, and sure enough, I get 0. So remember, when we're done, the number at the end is the remainder, which is what we want. If x is -2, then our y is 0, which again, just kind of going back to that graph, is what we're seeing here. If x is, I wrote 2, -2, let me get back to here. Then if you look all the way over here, my y is 0. All right, anyway, the remainder, -18 is a constant, -3 gets an x, and this gets an x squared. So what I'm going to do now is take this, and I'm going to factor it. Hopefully it factors. If it doesn't, then I have another backup method. So I need factors of -18 that make -3, and that works. I can use a -6 and 3, whether you put the x's in the x or not. I'm going to go ahead and make my parentheses now. And is x and x, is this first term with this first term enough to make that? It is. So then I like to make my face. And an x with a -6 makes this term. And an x with a +3 makes this. So now I can go and get my final answer. So one of my solutions, I'm going to kind of put this over here in a different color, is going to be -3. And I want you to realize the factor that got me there was x plus 3. Another solution is going to be 6. The factor that got me there is x plus 6. I'm sorry, not plus 6, minus 6. You are responsible for letting me know all 3 solutions. So the other solution you might forget about is the -2 that we kind of cheated with on the graphing calculator. And if I were to make parentheses for this, it would have been x plus 2. I do want to see the solutions, and I want to see the factors that got you there. All right, let's jump to number 3. So number 3, if I did try to factor this again with the grouping method, it will not work. So what we've gone ahead and done is to tell you, when you do your synthetic division, just go ahead and put -2 in there. So I'm going to put -2 in there. There's 3, there's 8, there's -3, there's -14. It is a 0, so at the end I should get 0 if x is -2. Then when I put it in again to this highlighted part here, I should get 0 at the end. So let's start by bringing down the 3. I'm just going to start multiplying. I'm going to add up. 2 with the -2 is -4. Add my next column for -7. -7 with the -2 is 14. And sure enough, I do get 0. All right, remember, this is my remainder, this is the constant, this is x squared. So now what we're going to do is we're going to try to factor this, and if it doesn't work, then I have my backup method. So I need factors of 21, remember multiplying those, that make 2, and this is not factorable. So when we can't factor, and what we're working with is a quadratic, because that highest exponent is a 2. That's called a quadratic. When you can't factor, you're going to take this and you're going to put it into this. All right, hopefully you have that memorized. All right, so starting, my A is 3, my B is 2, my C is -7. So it's going to go x equals opposite B, so -2 plus or minus. I'm going to take B and square it, -4 with my A and C. I'm going to put that -7 in parentheses, and then all of it's over 2 times A, so 2 times 3 is 6. Keeping this going, I'm just going to clean up what's inside the check mark. Feel free to turn on your calculators and starting with the parentheses, typing this all in, not the check mark. But when I do type that stuff in, I will end up with let's just double check, 88, and this is a good answer. So let's talk about what you might see on the capstone instead if this were a capstone question. Well, first, this is a good answer for X, but it's not the best answer. 88 can be broken down into these factors, with 4 being a nice perfect square. So the square root of that 4 is 2, and this is a better answer. Even better than answer than that is to make this little triangle here and realize that you can divide, whoops, sorry, messed up a number. Sorry, that should be a 6 here. I did catch that. And that I can divide all of these numbers by a 2. And so the best answer is dividing, again, what numbers are hit by the triangle, divide them all by 2. This is my best answer. Now, this doesn't really make sense when we start to graph. So remember, you can always go to the graphing calculator and type this in. We are going to worry more about that when we get to the graphing portion. So what are my answers? Kind of ran out of room. So one answer is this. Actually, two answers because we have the plus or minus. And the factor that got me that was this. My other answer is the one that I used in my synthetic division, and the factor that it would have gotten me there is this. So I am looking for you guys to write that. All right, last problem, number 4. Again, we're going to solve. It's already set equal to 0, and I do, notice that when I start this problem that I can GCF an x out. So here goes that x all the way over here. Here's what's left. I'm just going to really separate it out. And now what I'm going to do is make an x based on this. So I need factors of negative 24 that get me to 23, and that will be a 24 and a 1, with the 1 being negative. All right, this GCF is coming along here. And now my next parentheses are the parentheses that I will get because the factors come in pairs. And right now, starting with x and x, this term with this term is nowhere close to getting this term. So I'm going to start to fix it by putting squares in there. And then what I'm going to do is I have to decide, that's still not x to the 4x to the 4th, it's only x to the 4th. So I'm going to have to decide, should I put a 4 and 1 in here, or should I put a 2 and 2 in here? And I'm going to choose the 4 and 1 because 4 can make this number and 1 can make this number. Putting 2's in there will not make those numbers, not both of them anywhere. Anyway, so let me fix this. So my parentheses are going to be 4. You can put a 1 there if you want. And now I'll make my face. And 4 multiplying with a positive 6 makes this. And then x squared with a negative 1 makes this. So again, we've got one type of x. This is all I need technically to factor. I do want you to start noticing that difference of squares, and this could actually factor into 2x plus 1 and 2x minus 1. And then here goes my x squared plus 6. So what are my answers? Well, this factor will make negative 1/2. This factor will give me 1/2. And this factor, once I set it equal to 0 and I move that 6 over, and then I take the square root for plus or minus, the square root of a negative number will be an I, and the square root of 6 will be this. So I am looking what factor made what solution and what solution comes from what factor. So make sure you take care of that as you do all the problems. All right, that is it for this video. The next video I would encourage you to watch because number 2 would have been on our ICANN, and also number 5. So I will start with those 2 problems at the very least, and then I'll complete the rest in the traditional order.